going on with y'all? Jay Myrex of ultrawest.com. Back once again. Hope all is well out there, y'all. We do these live streams every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Time. So if you're ready for some good music production conversation, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you stay tapped in because we're going to be doing this. And you see the title today. Today's title is DAW Wars. So we're talking DAWs today, y'all. So yeah, I want to hear back from the community. I want to hear about what DAWs you guys are using, why you're using it, how you made the decision to make to use your DAW, and how you use it today. I'm gonna be talking about that a little bit from my perspective, but I want to hear you guys as well. So we're gonna get into that in just a moment. Gonna let some more people pile in the room and on the stream, and I'm gonna do some acknowledgement of folks in the chat before we get started. But appreciate y'all for tapping in as always, man. We're gonna get this going in just a few. Salute to my true sound creators that have joined. Cold Heat Studio, salute fam, one of my true sound creators. DeWitt NL, West, appreciate you, another true sound creator. Joe Fire, another true sound creator, appreciate you, man, salute. Get at Nard, West, appreciate y'all, the true sound creators in here, man. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with your boy, man. Yeah, man, for those that are joining for the first time, yeah, this is what we do. We got this music production community here, and we talk real shop, man. We talk the real truth about music production, man. So unfiltered. It's not about shilling. It's about providing information and providing facts and sharing with the community. So that's what this community is about. And yeah, I invite you guys to take a part of this live stream. We got the chat here, but we also got our Fanbase app where you can communicate directly with me on Fanbase via audio. So my trusty moderator, Upbeat Media, will be providing links where you can join us on Fanbase. So if you're interested in tapping in with your boy on Fanbase, please make sure you get an account for Fanbase so that you can participate in these live streams via audio, because it's a great way to just really provide some dialogue and not just typing. Not a problem with this. If you just want to type, no problem. I definitely invite all forms of engagement here. But yes, if you want to participate on that next level, make sure you get a Fanbase account. All right. Before we get fully started, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge a few other people in the chat, and also do a little bit of administrative work. If I can ask you guys, if you're in here, if you already are, if you like these types of streams and like us doing these types of streams, make sure that you support the channel by hitting the like button so that more people can see this stream and more people can enjoy the conversation and the information on these streams. So hit the like button if you haven't already done so. You know, don't just spectate and don't hit the like button, because it helps this channel, and that's free. I don't ask for much, but that I'm gonna ask you for, because it definitely helps the channel. And you know, we're a growing channel. We do have a goal of reaching a larger audience with the information and the messages. So help your boy out, hit the like button so that more people can see this and that this stream can help more people. DJ Cool Breeze, another true sound creator. I appreciate you, fam. Thank you for joining. Mr. Salute, fam. Appreciate you for joining as well. Just some administrative stuff here. So before we get fully into the conversation, I want to let you guys know that we do have a membership on this channel. And the membership includes over 50 hours of music production, video content, just tons of content, legacy content, as well as, you know, we're doing new stuff. We got like new video content from this year. We did interviews with EA Ski, Snipe Young, Divided Souls. We're going to be doing more content in there. We're also doing some live streams, and I've done some exclusive walkthroughs of different processes and different gear that I don't normally talk about on the main channel. So if you're interested in getting a deeper dive and getting a little bit more information about this thing that we call music tech and music production, become a true sound creator. You can see true sound creators in the chat right now. All the folks that got their names in green in the chat, these are the true sound creators. And the true sound creators can attest to the value that's in there. And also, it's a great way to support the channel. I mean, YouTube is great, but you know, if we want to continue to push things forward on this platform, it also helps out the channel. Consider becoming a true sound creator. We do have some exclusive perks to membership besides just the video content. We do also have some exclusive coupons and discounts for things like we Divided Souls, for example, provided us with a great discount on their Amplify VST, which is a great tool for sound design. So also, we have discounts for things like my ebook, The Sound Mind, which is a great tool and resource for music producers and aspiring sound designers that are looking to level up their game and explore new opportunities within the space of music tech. So definitely become a true sound creator if you're interested in getting a little bit more value from this channel. Also, since I just mentioned it, let's talk about the Sound Mind for a second. The Sound Mind is an ebook that I wrote almost 10 years ago now, but it's packed with information. It's packed with value. It is a book that I wrote for people that are looking to level up and really create a lane for themselves within the world of music production. And I documented over 20 years of music tech and music production experiences, thoughts, insights, and even processes that I've used over the years as a music producer. And it's been compiled into this book, The Sound Mind. So the Sound Mind is a great resource, whether you're a beginner music producer or if you're intermediate and advanced producer. I've had a lot of people that have purchased this book and have been producing for 20 years and still found values and insights that they were like, wow, those are some great ways to think of those things that you just mentioned there. So I definitely talk a lot about my sound design and the processes used at places like Native Instruments and other places that I've done sound design. I talk about like my processes, not their proprietary process, but my own processes and the things that I've used as a sound designer to become the music professional that I've become over the past 20 some odd years. So if you're interested, please make sure you check out my website. Upbeat Media will have a link in the description or a link in the chat where you can go check out the Sound Mind. But if you're watching this on a VOD, video on demand, you can also see the link to this in the description where you can purchase the Sound Mind if you're interested in that. All right, administrative stuff out the way. Couple other folks in here I want to just say what's up to. Fang Pang, what's going on with you, man? Appreciate you for tapping in. Gird Up International Ministries, another true sound creator. Appreciate you, fam. Thank you so much for joining as always, man. Appreciate the continued support. Retro to Sound, I appreciate you, fam. Thank you for becoming a true sound creator. Man, we got a new true sound creator up in here. Let's go. Let's go. There it is. Yes, sir. And Nor Monster, man, what's going on with you? Another true sound creator. Salute, fam. Salute. Yes, sir. So, as mentioned, today's conversation is about DAWs. I've wanted to have some conversations with y'all about DAWs. I think we talk so much about like groove boxes and samplers so much. I kind of want to switch it up a bit and not just be so groove box, DAW or Groovebox and DAWless. I'm definitely not a DAWless person myself. I'm one that really enjoys working in a DAW, and it gives me a lot of value, and it's a vital part of my workflow as a professional. So this is not a sampler Groovebox discussion today. Not necessarily. We can talk about it a little bit, but it has to be within the scope of a DAW. So let's see. 88 Mo Keys, what's good with you? Jungleism, what's good with you, fam? I appreciate you. Another true sound creator. We already got some folks in here talking about what they use. I want you to represent what you guys are. What are you using? Let me know in the chat what DAWs you guys are using. Also like to know, like, why you are using it. Like, what made you make the decision to choose the DAW that you're using, and how do you use your DAW today? Let me know in the chat. If you're watching this on a video on demand as a replay, let me know in the comments. What DAW are you using? What made you decide to use it? And how are you using it today? What part of your process does the DAW come into play here? For me, I've been on this DAW journey for quite some time, actually. I started off as a Fruity Loops user, not an FL Studio user, a Fruity Loops user. So all the way back then, I started off with Fruity Loops and Sony Acid around 2000. I got put on to a bit more robust DAWs by 2001. So my mentor at the time, Ross Whitney at University of California, Irvine. That's where I was. That's where I started my music production journey at UCI. My mentor put me on Cakewalk, and thank God he had like just a spare Cakewalk deluxe at that time that he could sell to me. So he got me that. I think I paid like $50 for it or something like that. So that started my journey with like a full-fledged DAW, because the Fruity Loops and Acid at the time were not full-fledged DAWs. They weren't where they are today. Fruity Loops was kind of more like a quasi Groovebox type of step sequencer replacement, but it wasn't really like a full DAW at that time. And Sony Acid was definitely not a full-fledged, not the version I had. It wasn't a full-fledged DAW where you could like really do all the things that you want to do as a DAW user. So then, I moved over to Cakewalk and, to about 2001. And then I started using Cakewalk and Sonar. Eventually, I did the upgrade to Sonar, and I used that until about 2003. I dabbled with Reason around that time as well. So I started messing with Reason a bit around 2003 as well. But then I found out about Qbase and switched over to that probably around 2004. And the interesting thing is by 2002, that's when I got my first MPC. So I was already using MPC. That was my main like thing for making beats at the time, because just DAWs were different in that era. So I wasn't ready to fully use a DAW for all the production, because my experiences with DAWs were that they were good for recording audio for me, but they weren't good for like MIDI production at that time. MIDI was very rinky dink on the type of computer that I had. At least I had a like Pentium, I think Pentium 3 or something like that, or Pentium 2. I forgot what it was now, but it was a Windows system, and just having the setup that I had, MIDI production wasn't there. So I had the MPC to kind of supplement it, so it allowed me to do the MIDI production, because back in that day, MPC meant MIDI production center. So that's why I was using the MPC for the MIDI part, and then the audio part I would do in Sonar for a while. And then I found out about Qbase, and I started messing with it. And Cubase was actually working pretty well for me for a while. So far, it so well that I was like, man, this is very stable compared to the other stuff I was using. And so I was using Cubase and it was working so well that I said, you know what, I could do everything on just this now because this is actually working. And yeah, guess what I did? I sold my MPC 2000 XL and said I'm gonna just be full Cubase, and I still have my motif, so I was like I could just link Cubase to the motif. And the other thing about it, about why I made that decision at that time, was that Steinberg had been acquired by Yamaha, so they had all this like interact. The all of the systems were working together. So you had like their i88X and the motif MLAN and all that stuff was supposedly working natively with Steinberg stuff. So I was like, yeah, let's just go there. So I sold my 2000 XL. Um, Regretted that. Definitely regretted that. And it started to show its true colors, and the MIDI went haywire. It was all kind of like instability. And then I had to go rush out and get a MPC 1000 to recover. And so that's how I became an MPC 1000 user at that time. That's about 2004. So Cubase XS or SX around 2004, but then I started recording with Pro Tools later on that year, actually, when I started to work with artist Clinton Wayne in person. So I've been working with Clinton Wayne since about 2003, but for the first year, we mainly worked remote. Like we worked in person to flesh out some ideas and do some pre-production. But then when he moved to Minnesota, when we were doing the Soul Ghetto record, yeah, he was remote, so I would just send him beats and track out sessions via CD in the mail and that sort of thing. So this is ancient times now. We can do it much better today. But that's how we were working. So we were working remote, so I never needed Pro Tools. But once we started recording together, I started using Pro Tools. We had Pro Tools on campus at the media center that I used to work at, and yeah, I started using Pro Tools. So yeah, my mentor at that time, Ross, he put me up on Pro Tools. He showed me how to use Pro Tools, and we started recording what would become Clinton's second project with me, which would be Regal Music. So that was around 2004, 2005 really is when we really like locked in for sure on Pro Tools. And but I was mainly using Pro Tools at the studio. I didn't have Pro Tools at the house at that time. I still was between Qbase and Sonar. But I would then either bounce out everything, or that was the time where I was really looking for the protocols to be able to like transfer from any DAW. So that's when I got into the OMF thing. OMF never worked. OMF was like a protocol that allowed you supposedly to be able to export your session from any DAW and open it up in any other DAW. Never really worked for me. So I ended up buying a Pro Tools system, my first Pro Tools system around 2005 while I was still on PC. That was a pain. If anybody has ever used Pro Tools on PC back in the day, they can attest to it being, it was hot garbage. To be honest, it was hot garbage. It barely worked. It was so many problems with it. I had bought a 002. Well, actually, the first one I bought was a M-Box, but then once I really started to like track out beats and stuff, I said, nah, I need the 002. So I ended up getting the 002 rack. Had that about 2005. So I was doing Pro Tools. So like all the Regal Music era stuff, that was definitely Pro Tools, and a lot of later stuff that I did, from 2005 to 2007. Definitely, I was heavy Pro Tools, but I was always one to dabble with DAW. So around 2005, I also started messing with Logic. So I had like the whatever the light version was at that time. Forgot what they called it at that time, but they had like a light version essentially. So started with that in 2005. Just started to kind of like learn about it. I didn't use Logic in the past, but I heard people were using it, so I started messing with that. But around 2007, I found myself getting to a point where I was like, "Yo, I can actually do what I need to do in Logic." So I was using Logic. I started to go full speed with Logic. And Logic was great because it just had a lot of instruments and effects, and it had the MIDI production was good in there. So yeah, I was a Logic head. So around from 2007 to 2009, I was basically just fully Logic. And then that was another era where I wasn't so much on the MPC either. Um, you can see my video, The Addict, on this channel that kind of like shows that period of time where I was like Logic only. And you can see some other videos in this channel where I was just Logic only at that time. So, but The Addict kind of is like the just the peak of that era for me because it really was like, okay, I still want to use an MPC too. So you know, I ended up getting a 2500 again, and so around 2009, I was still Logic, but I was Logic plus the MPC 2500. Around 2009, though, I started to really dabble with this program that everybody was getting for free when they bought MIDI controllers, and I would always just like push the little CD to the side, like whatever, like I don't care about that. But I had a whole bunch of CDs that said Ableton on it. Didn't know what it was about. But then I saw Jazzy Jeff talking about Ableton. I saw a video of him talking about it and really inspired me to see, like, because he was talking about, man, if people only knew all the stuff you can do in here, they would change everything. So I said, let me see about that. So we had a free CD and I just installed it and I said, okay, let's play with it. So I learned about it and started to use Ableton around 2009. And you can see videos of me talking about that as well on this channel, like 2009. Like I talked about switching from Logic to Ableton. And that was a fun time. I did a lot of cool stuff in Ableton during that era. I definitely did stuff for Clinton Wayne and rappers like Verbal, and also I did part of the production for the Locksmith Illuminati song inside of Ableton. It was a combination of Machine plus Ableton at that time, but also I used some Ableton for some of the music on my project, The Human Experiment, which is on my website if you want to check that out. But there's a couple of tracks that I did in Ableton at that time. And I really liked Ableton because Ableton was like super creative and just the workflow was totally different from a traditional DAW. And I could just think about things differently. So it made my mind start to like transform about how I approach sequencing because of the clip-based workflow and also just the tactility of how it's set up. Like so many aspects of that DAW can be assigned to knobs and faders and pads and MIDI and whatnot. So at that time, I was using this was before I got before Machine came out. I was a Core user, so I had the Core 2 controller by Native Instruments. Before that was even before I started working at Native Instruments, but I was a Core 2 user. And once I realized you can map that Core 2 controller to Ableton, I said, boy. So then, like some of the stuff I was doing was just like crazy, like on that Ableton video that I'm talking about on this channel, that's when I started to mess with the glitch funk sounds and all that kind of stuff. So that's That track, that glitch funk track that I played on that video years back, that's part of the Human Experiment project. So that's on the paid version of the Human Experiment if you want to check out the full version of that. But those were Ableton tracks at that time. That's when I was having a lot of fun with Ableton. 2000, basically from about 2009 to 2012, I was like Ableton out. I went back to Logic fully in 2012. I was not completely Ableton during that time frame though, because um realistically, I was using Ableton creatively at the crib, but for work, I was primarily using Logic still. Like when I had to do sound design stuff, editing, mastering of any type of like audio demos for native instruments or anything like that, that was always still done inside of Logic. So any type of like real audio editing, all that stuff was still like fully Logic for me. But it's like when I wanted to get creative and do something outside the box, then yeah, that's when I would use Ableton. But I decided to go fully back to Logic in 2012. The reason was Logic was the best compromise for me of traditional audio recording, audio routing, audio editing, and MIDI production. It did all of those things very well for me. Pro Tools and that sort of thing, Pro Tools never did MIDI well. Like I tried making beats in Pro Tools back in the day. Pro Tools was garbage for MIDI production when I first started, and it never really got great for me. So Logic was always solid for like MIDI and VST based production. So it was great for that. Audio editing and recording and audio routing is very strong inside of Logic as well. Like just traditional audio recording, editing, cutting and slicing and fading and doing that sort of thing. Ableton is great for doing non-traditional things like the warping and that sort of stuff is like amazing in Ableton. I think Ableton changed the game with the audio warping. Um, Amazing. But overall, pound for pound, Logic was the best for me because the traditional recording, being able to do like audio take recording, for example, I couldn't do that in Ableton. Ableton didn't record that way. Ableton primarily has a clip-based recording style. So if you wanted to do like vocals and things where you're like, doing punch-ins or, doing any type of like just overdub recording, Ableton wasn't great for that. And also just overall like audio editing, like traditional audio editing wasn't great for me in Ableton. So I also found that Logic just performed better, like the CPU performance, processor performance was better on Logic than it was with Ableton. So when I would run a session and I had VSTs and all that sort of stuff going on, and like I just had a bigger session, Ableton would not perform as well, just the way it managed the resources and whatnot. So it wasn't as performant for me. I could get a lot more stuff done with just VST based production in Logic. So that was another reason why I just switched back to Logic. Logic also just had a great array of built-in instruments and effects, which I still use on every session. So Ableton has some great effects in there as well. I think on the instrument side, it doesn't have as great of instruments. I think drum racks are great, and being able to create drum racks and whatnot, that's definitely, at that time, that was an advantage over Logic having like this really sampler-based workflow that Logic didn't. Back in the day, it's like either you were gonna put your samples in EXS24, which I did plenty of, but you could also put your samples like drum samples and things in Ultrabeat. Ultrabeat wasn't a great workflow. I think Ultrabeat is very archaic. So typically I would put stuff inside of EXS24, but compared to drum racks and all the other samplers like Impulse and Sampler and Simpler and all that stuff, Ableton has amazing samplers that you can like quickly use. But overall, the overall instruments that are included in Logic are much better for me and what I do because I'm actually not primarily a sample based producer. I'm primarily a instrument and keyboard based producer. So the instruments and sounds that come with Logic actually get used a lot in my productions today. So that's why I stayed with Logic and also built-in effects. There's a lot of great built-in effects like the EQs and the compressors and limiters and yeah, so many great audio tools that are included inside of Logic that I use constantly, and it has helped to shape my sound. So at a certain point, once you learn your tools, you start to build a sound around those tools. And I think that was the even more compelling part for me is that because I had been using it for so long, I developed a sound with Logic. And I mean, my musicality is a big part of the sound and like my approach to like programming and sound design and all that stuff is a factor in my sound, but ultimately it's the combination of my sensibilities musically and also my command over the tool set is what really helped to shape my sound. And I definitely can say I have a harder problem like at like that last 5% of the track. I can do extremely well in Logic, but I couldn't do this. I won't get the same results exactly in Ableton or FL or any of the other DAWs. So it's just that last 5% for me of the song that really matters to me because I'm a details person and I'm a fidelity person as well. So that last 5% is super important for me. It may not be important to anybody else, but for me, it matters. So that is why I said, okay, I'm gonna just stay in Logic. Even though if I got to get down in Ableton or FL, I can still do my thing. Reason I can still do my thing in as well. But ultimately, especially as a professional in the world of sound design, I needed something that had a robust set of tools for audio editing specifically. And Ableton was not enough. I will still use Ableton for certain things. Like if I need to warp something, I'm gonna use Ableton. Ableton is great, or there's other tools now, Serato and whatnot that you can use. But if I need to warp something, Ableton is like the master of warping, like by far. So if I need to warp something real quick, the thing today is you can pull up multiple DAWs on the same system and do what you need to do and get what you need to get out of them and transfer audio to whatever DAW you're going to finalize in. So it's great today. The computers are very strong and they can handle that. Back in the day, I couldn't do it because Pro Tools alone, like if you had a Pro Tools system, just the way that the audio interface was managed alone was crazy. You could only run one application at a time. So, yeah, this was these were some of the factors that I had to deal with in that time. But today, you can just use multiple DAWs and just get the best out of what you need. But I want to hear back from the community. What DAWs are y'all using? Why did you choose the DAW that you are using now, and how do you use it in your process today? Like what are the things that you use out of it? What makes it compelling for you to use? Like I said, I don't want to keep belaboring the MPC sampler topic because it gets kind of played out to me. And I think, a lot for me, I'm an MPC user, I'm a Groovebox user, but for me, that's just the beginning of the track. I always do the final parts of the music in a DAW. Like I'll either track out or bounce or whatever I need to do. I'll track out the music, put it in a DAW, do my audio edits, add additional production, and then do my final mix and master in my DAW. So the DAW is super important. Like there's no way that I would replace my DAW with a Groovebox today. But I want to hear back from y'all. I see some hands up in fan base, so I'm going to invite the first guest on stage. Let me see here. Oh, that's why you couldn't hear me on fan base. I was muted. Yeah. So anyhow, I'm gonna invite the first person on stage on fan base. Get at Nard. I see you. I'm gonna invite you on stage. What's going on?
Hey, nothing much, nothing much. Yeah, so when I first started, I started with on Pro Tools. I was actually rapping back then, so I wasn't using it mainly for recording. It was just to get ideas down.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with Pro Tools. Then the studio I was going to change to Sonar, so I ended up going to Sonar. And then I stepped away for a couple of years, and once I came back, I was actually going. I bought a Mac, and then I was going to get another version of Sonar, and Guitar Center happened to have Studio One there,
Mm.
and I just was playing around in Studio One. I think it was version one, and it was just so easy. I ended up buying it, and then I've been in Studio One probably like the last 12, 13 years, something like that. Just I don't have the patience to learn anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna ride or die with Studio One.
Okay. Let me ask you this: do you make your beats inside of Studio One, or like is it just mainly for audio recording?
So I do a little of both. I use mainly my MPC 2000,
Okay.
and I have some keyboards and stuff. But I do use Studio One sometimes too. And I think a lot of times it depends on if I want to deal with the hardware. Sometimes I just want to get an idea out quick, so I just do it inside Studio One.
Mm.
But sometimes, But I like I said, for me, it's good. I know some people have issues with it and stuff. Like I said, I don't want to take the time to learn anything else. Like I'm kind of stuck in my ways.
Oh,
So
okay. Now I hear you. What would you say is your like favorite feature of Studio One?
I like the it's tracking your hardware and stuff is easy. It's just like a plugin. You just drop it in,
Okay.
and map everything out. So I mean, that's what I like the most.
Okay. Okay. No, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. So we got some Studio One heads in the house, man. I appreciate you for sharing that, man. Anything else you want to add to the conversation?
No, that was it. Just going through my dog journey in my mind while you were talking.
That's
Bring
what's up.
bring back a lot of memories.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming up on stage and sharing, bro.
All right, no problem.
All right, bro. Peace.
All right.
All right. We got other folks on Fanbase. If y'all want to come up on stage on Fanbase, you're welcome to come up on Fanbase and share your thoughts and your ideas and your experiences. Want to know about your DAWs and like what you're using, like how you're using it today and all that kind of stuff. All right, I see you, William. Mr. Ellington. I'm about to bring you up on stage, fam. Appreciate you. Mr. Ellington, what's good,
Hello,
fam?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. What's the deal? What's the word on this DAW topic?
I'll put it in a nutshell. I was on Reason from the get go, basically, as far as beats go, around 2.5 and 3.0, and I used it for a lot of years, and I got bored of opening the same thing every day, and bought a Machine Micro.
Mm,
Thought that was super awesome.
mm,
Um, Upgraded to the MK3, still super awesome. And then I circled back to Reason again, and now I use them both separately.
mm,
Sometimes I use the Reason plugin in Machine, but mostly I like Reason for its own reasons and Machine for its own
of
reasons.
course.
Um, Basically, I had an MPC 25 once upon a time as well.
Okay.
I didn't have it for long, just cause. But when I don't know, I remember I liked it. It was cool and stuff, but I'm like, man, Reason is so much more powerful than this thing. Um, so it went, and then I just kind of thought, well, MPCs were kind of rudimentary, like software blows it out of the water. And then, yeah, Machine came around and I kind of slept on it, and other MPCs came around. And anywho's, when I got to Machine, I got to it with the mindset of, okay, this is like an MPC, but I could load VSTs and do all the modern stuff in it. And it filled that gap for me. And it was a great sampler. I could chop in it, just like traditional chopping records and sample packs.
Yep.
Add some VST instruments, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with Reason, with the reintegration of Reason into my life, it's kind of my favorite. It's head to head. So with Reason, I got audio tracks that are better than Machine's audio tracks. I mean, we got a looper and Machine.
Yep.
If I want to plug a bass guitar, mic up my bongos, Reason got me. I could rev stuff out of Reason through a pedal or something, bring it back in, or any kind of hardware. That's cool. I have a MIDI out device in Reason, which helps me sequence my iPad. It's kind of like, if I want to do it all, Reason's a good place to do it. Yeah. And then when I'm actually rapping and recording and editing and mixing them over in Studio One, and that's kind of my trio. And that's really a wrap. I mean, that's what I do.
Okay, no,
it works. It's good.
No, that's good. That's a good share. You could kind of bring back some thoughts and memories, especially. I love Reason as well. Reason was like one of the first like real virtual instrument style packages that I fell in love with, because it reminded me of hardware, but you had the flexibility of software. When I was using it, it didn't have audio tracks and didn't have MIDI out at that time. So I figured out ways to use it as a sound module with my MPC 2500. And that's how I used to use it, because Reason had a very powerful MIDI router at the top and the audio router at the top as well. So the combination of the MIDI router plus the, at that time, you also had Rewire. So being able to use Rewire with the DAW to track it, it was like a great, like all-in-one workflow. And I got some videos where I'm doing that on this channel, like back in the day with the 2500, but that was a cold setup. So I definitely love that setup.
Nice. I think I had a 1000 for a period as well. And I did try out sequencing Reason with it. And of course I didn't understand everything, but I did get it working. But I thought, well, if my audio's coming from my MPC and my MIDI's coming from Reason, how do I record this stuff, right? I'm assuming that's where the rewire came into play.
Yes.
I could never wrap my head around it. I always thought it was useless.
No.
But it was operator error. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah, Rewire was a game changer. I wish like we still had Rewire style protocols. Like it's kind of like become like second tier now as far as like protocols. But back in the day, that was a game changer, because being able to also rewire something like Ableton Live into Pro Tools, like you had all that kind of stuff, all that kind of interconnectivity. And I really miss being able to work like that. That was a great workflow. I'm not sure. I haven't used Reason in a while. Do they still have Rewire at all?
No, but I want to bring up a point. Ableton Link. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think as far as like MIDI synchronization is concerned, because especially if you use a groove box or something like that, that's always been an issue, trying to keep things in sync. I love the idea of having Ableton Link as a protocol for synchronization, especially if you use like an iPad or some other hardware device that now supports that. It's a great alternative to just doing like a general like MMC or MIDI time code based synchronization, which always was faulty.
Yeah, I like it. I like it as well. It works pretty good. Man. Not really much more to add other than like the Studio One thing. They have some composing tools, and I played with them, and they are handy. So let's say I want to add some more to my track after I've recorded vocals, but I'm like struggling with the bass line or whatever. You could extract those music parts to chord track and then lock your bass to your chord track. It's a little convoluted, not really once you wrap your head around it, but it's cool because now your bass line's in key. Or let's say you had a bass line in audio, it could even repitch the audio. Like, that's crazy.
That's dope. That's dope. I can see that being very handy. So yeah, that's a good layer. I appreciate you also adding that color to the conversation around Studio One. That's definitely something to consider.
Yes, sir.
Man, well,
Yeah.
appreciate you, William, man. Thank you as always for joining. I'm gonna give you some loves here, and then yeah, man. Yeah, feel free to come back anytime, man.
Absolutely. Good talking.
All right, bro. Peace.
Peace.
All right. Yeah, y'all that want to come up on Fanbase, man, y'all welcome to come on Fanbase and just add to the conversation. We're having the conversation. I want this video to help others that are like just starting off, like trying to figure out what they want to use. You know, this will be a good video for them to refer back to and just say, okay, here's all these different experiences and here's why people are using this and that. So I want it to be like that, but also, um I want even experienced producers to be able to kind of hear different things and get the different insights. I'm gonna go back to the chat. I see some folks already giving me plenty of engagement here and comments and whatnot. So I'm gonna go to the chat here. Let's see here. Let me start from the bottom up. That one beat says can't get Ableton Link to cooperate with the MPC and AUM on iPad. Yeah, I think for MPC, I don't necessarily think Link is the way for MPC. I think for other instruments and platforms, it's great. But I think for MPC, I'm still a fan of MIDI, like just direct MIDI for MPC personally. Let's see. WR Key says, just keep in mind when someone says something is better than another DAW, that's based off their preferences, their preference of workflow, and sometimes even the style of music. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Reason kind of lends itself to specific genres. Like you can do any genre of music that you want in any DAW, but Reason, I think, from what I've seen in my experience, I think a lot of folks on the West Coast that are doing like, something that incorporates a bit more like funk styles and like synth style music or whatnot. Reason is very well suited for that because it just has all the basic things that you would use to make like a G funk or soul-y funk style record. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the reason that I see a lot of guys like DJ Battlecat and Mike and Keys and even people like DJ Khalil, others that like on the West Coast, like Reason is heavy on the West. So yeah, I can see how different instruments can lead itself, or different DAWs can lead itself to, or lend itself to specific genres as well. I mean, I would say that's why a lot of people buy the MPC. Like if you're into like boom bap and traditional sample based production, it's like there is a king of that style of music, and I would say largely it's the MPC. So that's why, yeah, different DAWs kind of lend itself. I know a lot of people that are doing like R&B and pop will either do like Logic or Studio One. And then if you're doing trap or like modern hip hop, a lot of guys will just use FL. That's just kind of how it's been. Cold Heat Studios, appreciate the super chat, man. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Let's see here. That one beat says started with Reason and got Pro Tools, then Logic and Ableton to use with Machine, then FL and Bitwig. Hated the look of Studio One, then Luna. I like to change up workflows. Word. Marcus says started in Cakewalk and then Pro Tools. /M audio, currently in Logic Logic and Ableton. Yes, sir. Jungleism said machine for life. That's what's up. 88 Moki says I have a hybrid setup, all instruments tracked to MIDI and converted to audio for editing purposes. Word. Willy Wonka says gadget inside of Qbases for AUV3 effects with the iPad to the SP404 into the MPC Live 2. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's an iOS style workflow for sure. Talking about Gadget to Cubases. Yeah, I got into Cubases a little bit on the iPad. I've done some things on there. But yeah, I'm still like, core Gadget when it comes to iOS. Just because I don't need it for everything. I use it mainly for sound. So that's why I use core Gadget more. Blazing Beast says, I like Ableton because all the plugins are on the bottom at the same time. Word, or that makes sense. Like that's a good insight there. Jungleism says, don't sleep on traction waveform either. On paper, it's stomping almost every DAW out there, and the user base is super low. Word. Yeah, I mean, traction definitely is a very niche DAW. And I haven't really messed with it so much. So like I probably need to dig into it a bit and kind of wrap my head around how I would use it today. But yeah, that's a good point. That's a good one to bring up. Epic, what's good with you, my bro? Epic to Dime. Um, Says I'm trying to choose between FL and Qbase completely right now. I always miss the drum sequencing when I leave FL and try another DAW. I think that's part of the problem, bro. Like, once you get a certain workflow and you develop a sound with a DAW, it's hard to like move on to something else. I mean, you've been doing that for a long time. I know FL. So it's just like, how do you replace that? It's kind of like I would say you're going to a new DAW to like change up some of the sound that you're doing. That's how I could see it. Because otherwise, if you're trying to like lock in on the same drum sequencing and the same pocket that you're achieving in FL, it's just like that's not it's not impossible, but you're going to be working way harder than you normally would just to do the same stuff if you go to another DAW. That's just a fact. And especially with FL, just the way that sequencer is set up and the way that you can manipulate the MIDI notes and whatnot. FL is a beast for like dropping MIDI notes into the piano roll and being able to split things and turn things into like triplets and all that kind of stuff. Like there's nothing out there that works that way. So if you already got like a groove with FL, um, one thing I could consider is like, hey, why not just like make a go back to the old way that I used to do it, at least, is like, make a drum groove in FL and then put that into your DAW and do the rest of the stuff that you want to do inside of the other DAW, just to have access to those other tools. I don't think, like I said, it doesn't have to be one or the other today. I think you can use the best of all of these things if you're trying to get something new out of it. So just some food for thought. Qbase, I haven't used in a long time. I couldn't tell you where Qbase is today as far as like the stability. I like Qbase as a DAW. It's very much a traditional DAW with some great features and functionality. Just I think today one of the bigger things that I'm always trying to make sure is it's a balance for me. Stability matters. I'm a big person on like stability of a DAW trumps almost everything, because if you got a DAW that has a lot of features but the stability is poor, it's kind of like it's not usable. So that's how I look at it. So if you find something stable, that's way more important than like having a gang of features on an unstable DAW. Retro to Sound says, I've had issues with EXS not properly saving samples. Interesting. Um, I haven't had that issue, but have you started? I'm curious to know. Have you used the new samplers inside of Logic? Because the new samplers are pretty powerful, and I love like just the sample chopping and slicing, and also like the drum designers, drum machine designer, and all that stuff. Like I think now that it has that, I don't have to use EXS24 anymore. Like back in the day, you kind of didn't have any options, so I was using EXS24 and battery. That was like for drums, like for the longest time since 2007, really, I used battery. So battery kind of saved the day for me. I would use EXS24 for like instruments that I was creating. Like, so when I started doing my sampling of my synths and hardware keyboards and converting those into EXS24 instruments, that was always great, and I never had a problem there. See some other folks in fan bases. You want to come up on fan base? Just raise your hand. I'll bring you up on stage. But yeah, I'm gonna continue reading through the chat on YouTube. Let's see here. 88 Moki says, when the M1 dropped, because my software is so vast VST, you couldn't install on an external drive, so I got my money back and switched to Windows. Never look back. Word. That's very interesting. Yeah, especially if you got older stuff that hasn't been updated. It does make it difficult to kind of switch over. I can see that. Let's see here. Junglista says, okay, he's talking to somebody in the chat here. Cody says, use Studio One for a year, but never bought it, but will soon. Word. Teddy Bear sources. Basically, we are mostly here for DAW Anonymous. I did a lot of that too. Yeah, I mean, it can be addictive trying to just find the value and like fun in a new DAW. That's always a nice interaction if you're up for the challenge and you're not completely tied to a DAW for like projects or some, other reasons. But ultimately, like I said, once you find something that is solid for you, I don't think that you need to always be trying to switch it up. I think you switch it up to learn new things and get inspired to do different things. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was using Ableton, that really changed what I was doing and how I was thinking, and my approach to music production was different. So like the sound that I was getting out of it was different. It was not what I was getting from my Logic workflows and my Pro Tool workflows, and nothing. It was completely different, and I loved it for that. And my experience with Ableton is also what helped me to become a machine user. So when I started using machine, I had already been using Ableton, so the whole clip-based, clip and pattern-based, scene-based workflow was already ingrained into how I thought about things at that point because of Ableton. So for me, it wasn't really a hard transition to then say, oh, this is how I can use machine. Machine was actually even like more fun at that point because I could see how I could use it in ways that I couldn't do with Ableton. So it is good to try new things to get a new take on how music production can work. But like I said, you still should have your staples. You should have the things that you rely on for like getting stuff done. And that's what I'm about. It's like really having something in the end where if somebody calls me and says, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z, I gotta have a go-to. And 9 times out of 10, if somebody asks me to do something production-wise, I'm pulling up Logic. That's just what it is for me. I'm not pulling out the MPC. I'm not pulling out none of that stuff. I'm getting on Logic and I'm getting stuff done because that's where I get most of my work done. I'm not gonna sit up here and tell you like, hey, like I'm just MPC DAWless and I just do the hardware thing. I used to do a lot more hardware, but even back in the day, I was still always using a DAW to track it. So, but today, if you tell me like, hey, you need something done, I'm going there because of the recall, because of the way that I can just quickly audition things and change things. If people need revisions of a project or slight changes, much easier and just more economical for me to do it from the DAW as opposed to having to start with the hardware and then do all this stuff and then say, oh, okay, you want a revision, let me go back to the hardware and reprogram things, change stuff out and then retrack it. Like that's not an effective workflow for me. So that's why I don't work that way. I use hardware for sound primarily. And that is why we have the sound conversations. That's why I've been having the shootouts and whatnot, because the sound for me matters. That's why I'm using hardware. I'm not using hardware because it's a better workflow than software, because From my perspective as a professional that has to actually turn in stuff, no, it's not a better workflow. It's not a faster workflow. It's not a more convenient workflow. It can be inspiring to work with hardware, but it's definitely not it's not a more concise workflow or anything. Like I'd much rather just use software most of the time and use the hardware to achieve certain sounds that are more difficult to achieve on on software. So if I got a piece of hardware that I know has a very specific sound that I need, like, hey, I want my drums to hit a different way, or I know like I can throw something in the MPC 4000, or I know I can throw some drums inside of the S3000 or the SP 1200 or something like that to get a specific sound. But it's going back in the DAW. Trust me. Like all the stuff that I'm doing, it's going back in the DAW, and I'm going to finalize the song in the DAW. Let me see here. I see Creative Tech. Let me follow you first of all, Creative Tech. I see you got an MPC in your profile. I'm gonna bring you up on stage, fam. What's going on?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah, I hear you great, man. I'm 88 Mo Keys,
Oh, that's what's up, man.
and
I appreciate you.
yeah, and so I didn't know you was on fan base, so I had to figure out how to sign up and figure out how to get into the room. So
Got
I
you.
made it,
Thank you, man. Appreciate you for coming up on stage, man. So what's the deal?
man. I've been following you for years, man, and
Appreciate
I
you.
have a hybrid setup, and I use Qbase when I do music for like TV series like Marvel, DC. So when I'm doing something like that, I use Qbase.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm tracking an audience or artists, I use Studio One, and I
Mm,
use Studio One because I think Studio One, when it comes to Dolby Atmos and spatial audio, it's head and above all DAWs. It's just so easy, to create and then mix it. And so, but I use Ableton too.
mm-hmm.
I was actually using Ableton and Studio One simultaneously when ARA first came out because it was just so easy to drop my vocals into Studio One and then go to Melodyne and edit them and then put them back into Ableton.
Yeah.
And then when I started adding all these drum machines and everything, and once everything in my studio can be the master or slave,
Mm-hmm.
so I can sit there. I don't really use my drum machines as, to create tracks,
I got you.
but I use them as plugins into my DAWs, you know.
Yep.
And so um, I just find that that's the most efficient way to work. And so I'm kind of old school. So all of my instruments are on really track 1 through 9, and my drum tracks, they goes on 10 through 16
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm working with somebody in the industry, years ago, if you went to like a Roland drum machine or Kronos drum machine and you listen to a demo, the drum tracks was always on 10 through 16.
Yep.
And so when you do that, they can tell whether or not you're an amateur, a pro, or you're a beginner or whatever. And you might miss out on a really opportunity to work on something or collaborate with somebody really great
Mm,
because you really don't know how to really set up your tracks. And that's very important. That's why MIDI is so important because you can edit and then you can convert that stuff to audio and then move on and go ahead on and take your time. I'm never in a rush. I don't have no workflow because I got so much samples and like I said, I got a lot of keyboard workstations, and so
mm.
I'm kind of never satisfied with maybe picking a sound. So I have to like pick my sounds and then decide which one that's going to be the best, or I might decide maybe 5 or 6, and then I go from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I like to take my time and work, and just do it right,
Makes
for
sense.
me.
Yeah.
But I think Cubase is the best DAW in the world
Mm,
because of what it can do.
mm,
It does everything. Now the problem with Cubase is not intuitive.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Studio One is a better DAW than Cubase, but Studio One does everything Cubase does. It just does it easier. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when MIDI Remote came in, that changed the game for all DAWs because it doesn't matter what you have in Cubase. If you know how to use MIDI Remote, it finds it and sets it up and maps it for you, automatically. So I'm still kind of upset with all these new keyboards out because I don't know why they're taking their time with MIDI 2.0. You know, all these new keyboards they ought to come with MIDI 2.0.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if you really understand and how that use it, that makes our job as producers so much easier to help create and maybe speed up your workflow also.
No, that's a good take for sure, especially on the MIDI 2.0 conversation. If you don't mind me asking, are you Mac or PC based?
You know what? I am PC based only because when the M1 came out years ago, um, you know, you wasn't able to install on an external hard drive.
Mm.
And so I got 7 terabytes of installation files.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go and buy M1, you know, the people that sell you an M1, they don't know how
Okay, you might be moving around a little bit, so you're cutting out, or maybe I'm losing connection. Can you hear me still?
files are not going to fit. Okay, so now, you know, you can't just go buy another SSD drive because they're expensive,
Yeah.
you know, they're really expensive. So I went and took my money back and I built my own. I bought an AMD 32 core, 64 thread processor.
Mm-hmm.
I had I bought 512 megabytes of RAM.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought two 4 terabyte SSD drives and I bought two NAS 10 terabyte hard drives.
Nice.
Now, the reason that I did that because I have Native Instruments and I have pretty much probably all their expansions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just have the collector's edition and pretty much everything. So when you put that on a separate SSD drive, those drives are super fast.
Yep.
And the PC allowed me to install what I want where I want.
Got you. Got you. So the
You know what I mean?
flexibility.
And
Yep.
so you cannot do that on an Apple machine. And don't get me wrong, the Apple machines was really great. You know, I have no problem with that, but I drew the line for that. That was it for me because the security features in the Apple was just so strategic. And people are still having that issue today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm always buying samples and sounds. And yeah, you can put that on another hard drive. But the thing is, you can run out of installation space real quick.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and a 2 terabyte hard drive for musicians, producers, that is nothing.
Oh yeah, you can run out
You know, that
super
is
quick.
nothing.
Yep.
I'm just being honest with you.
Yep.
That's nothing. So that's why I switched. And then, but I'm also a PC tech. So I've never had the issues that everyone else complain about Windows or whatever. I've never had any issues. I've never had any issues with the DAWs in terms of crashing or, you know, not working. You know, I mean, you got people now that buy keyboards and never read the manual,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then you want the keyboard to be user friendly, but you know, it takes time to learn the software. You know, it really takes time to learn the software. And so I put the time in. I've been doing this 20 plus years and you know, I put the time in to learn the software. And yeah, you know, there's different workflows and some things work, but I love the way Qbase sound. You know, Hans Zimmer said that Qbase sounds better than all the other DAWs. And I'm telling you, that is true. You know, it sounds a little bit better than, you know, Studio One has improved with Studio One 7.
Mm-hmm.
They have improved the sound so much. It's close, but I think Cubase still, and I use Digital Performer too, you know, sometimes too, but I just think Cubase sounds better than all the DAWs. But I like Studio One. If I had to pick a favorite, it would be Studio One
Okay.
because it's just so intuitive. Drop and drag, you just go. Once you get it set up. Now the sounds, you know, I don't think none of the DAWs I don't think have, you know, maybe Logic at one time for the money that you spend for Logic, it came with the best sounds. But now with all these different type of VSTs, I just think the VSTs are really caught up to the hardware. To be
Yeah.
honest with you,
Yeah.
you
In
know,
a lot of
I really
cases,
do.
they've
You know,
surpassed the hardware for sure. Yeah, I agree.
I totally agree with that. And so it's really, you know, if you take your time and you pick the right VSTs, you know, I don't care about which keyboard sounds better. I don't care about none of that. But I do care about the sounds that I choose because I want to put the best product for the client available.
Right.
And so that's what's important to me.
Right.
That's what's important to me.
Makes a lot of sense, bro. Well, yeah, man, I appreciate the share, man. That's a lot of good insights and definitely some good perspective. And yeah, thanks again for coming up on stage. I gave you some loves on Fanbase. So you got I don't know if you ever use Fanbase. With Fanbase is an app where users can be monetized directly. It's not like YouTube or anything else. So like the loves are actually like monetization. So if you ever think about getting into some content or whatever on Fanbase, it's a good place to also create and share stuff as well. So appreciate you for coming
I
up
do,
on
man.
stage.
That's my next thing,
Yes, sir.
But I appreciate F Major. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, Doc.
All right, bro. All right. Now this is good stuff, man. This is definitely good stuff. And y'all make sure y'all join the camp on Fanbase, the Ultra West Music Production chat. You can join the camp so you can get notified when we actually do these live streams, and you can be a part of this. And yeah, just becoming a part of the camp just helps you to like just be notified more quickly. So yeah, man, I appreciate y'all for sharing. If anybody else want to come up on Fanbase and share, please feel free. Just raise your hand. Upbeat Media will provide, or actually, they've already provided the link in there, so you can go ahead and click on that link and join the conversation, because we are having a DAW conversation. It's not really a war, I know I'm being a little bit ridiculous. It used to be a war. It's not a war anymore. People kind of are very clear. You use whatever you need for getting the job done. It's a preference thing at this point. Tadrick, I see you. I'm gonna bring you on stage, fam. Tadrick, what's good?
Jay, what's good with you, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Can't complain. How are you?
Doing good, man. I joined the chat, the video late, but I've been hearing about the last 10 minutes of the discussion, like having DAW talk, right?
Exactly. So yeah, it's just about like really this conversation is about sharing what DAW you use, why you use it, and how you use it in your current productions.
Okay. Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned in the chat, but just to reiterate, I kind of use pretty much all of them, except I think the guy just creative tech just mentioned Digital Performer. I mentioned Digital Performer as well. I learned Fruity Loops or FL Studio, but it just wasn't for me. And I know how to get around, and I could create a track if needed. But I tried the whole, the demo, or like I think the 3-week demo, and just decided not to buy it. And this was recently. I've always gave FL like a chance, but yeah, literally just this year, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use it. At least I know how to get around. But yeah, for the most part, like you mentioned, I use Logic Pro heavily. But Reason, I use Reason. I've been using Reason since 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And that was right around the time I'd sold like a fool, but I kind of don't want to talk about that. I sold my APC. I had a 2000 XL.
Yeah.
But no, at the time though, I figured I just had my first daughter, my first child. But I was like, computers were kind of, I ain't gonna say taking over, but it was a major transition was happening with computers and computer music during that time. So I figured I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and make that transition. And once somebody showed me how to use Reason, it was 2.5 at the time. I'm like, okay, perfect. I can, do everything I need to do, hook up a MIDI controller, yada, 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 or jump pad or something like that. But so I still use Reason. I think I'm on 12 now or 13, whatever it is.
Right.
So I use Reason mostly for my music production, like just creating the backing tracks or just creating like a track period, beats, whatever. I mainly use Logic Pro really for arranging or like I use it for recording vocals as well, recording my sax or recording whatever instrument.
Right.
But sometimes if I'm in Reason already, I'll record stuff in there too. I record vocals, talkbox, whatever I need to do. I got my MPC live too, so I do use that. The hardware, I don't use the software VST. It just I just prefer to record directly in. And but I like my MPC live because it's portable, has the battery. I take it to church or even like live gigs, and I have like just click tracks or backing tracks on it. I'll take it on vacations with me sometimes. And just I say sometimes because sometimes I don't want to like really go on vacation just to make beats, but I just have it just in case if inspiration strikes.
Exactly.
So I like that aspect of it. It's portable. I love it. But yeah, in the studio, I usually just have I record directly in. I'll tap the drums in, or I'll make a sequence and record it in, or track it out. Um, I also use Ableton Live. I mainly use it too if I'm creating like backing tracks. Sometimes I have like people in sessions like that come through when I'm doing like music production. Um, and it just depends. I may open up Logic Pro or I'm going to open up Ableton. And the reason why I use Ableton is it's great for live stuff. Setting up locators. If I'm doing a performance or something and I need to go to a specific part of a song or something like that, or skip a certain part. To me, I think it's really great as far as like setting up your locators and the whole scenes and doing stuff like that. But the best thing I love about Ableton Live, I don't know, this is just my opinion, but I think it has the best, or at least one of the best, as far as like I guess its algorithm, as far as like speeding up and slowing down stuff. Pitch manipulation, whatever. Yeah, warping. To me, I think it has the best warping capabilities.
Yeah.
Moving transients around. Logic Pro can do it too. But I feel like Ableton is just easier.
Yep.
It's I don't know. It's just better to me. That's my opinion. What else? Reason Logic Pro, Ableton. I got Luna because I got a Universal Audio. Apollo. I love Luna. It's cool. I like the setup, how it looks, the whole console setup and integration. It's not the best DAW out there, but it's definitely it's free if you have an Apollo or whatever type of interface.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. Then I got Pro Tools. I still got my Pro Tools subscription. I still got tracks in there. So I jump around. It just depends on what the need is. And just sometimes if I'm going to the lab and I'm like, what do I open up? And it just, whatever inspiration strikes. But I think they all serve their purpose.
Right.
I've tried Studio One before, but this gonna sound great. I think it's too easy, but not too easy in like a good bad way. But I think they just tried to cater to like the novice and the new, which is fine. I created some tracks in Studio One, but it's still on my machine, but I never open it. I have their mixer, the Studio Live mixer, like 16. It's in my studio. Sometimes I'll break or use it on live gigs. But yeah, nothing against Personas. They're great. But like the other guy said, Legal's Creative Tech. Their sounds aren't that great. It's a decent DAW. It's definitely a great entryway to get into DAW because it's like one of the cheapest out there, or at least like if you buy one of their hardware pieces or something like that, you get a free version of it. But yeah, like I said, for me personally, I jump around. It's just, and I purposely do that. I try to stay sharp on all of them.
Yeah.
Because you never know what the ask may be. If somebody has Pro Tools files or Logic Pro files or Ableton files, or if you're ever in a situation where somebody needs something done, I think you want to be flexible. It's like if you're a construction worker or whatever, you need a special tool. You should know how to use every different type of tool. If you're a carpenter or something like that.
Right.
So I think being a music producer or being in music production, musician, try to learn them all, at least to usable. You should be able to like at least record and create tracks in them, at least the basic parts.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, the only one I haven't tried is Digital Performer. I'm gonna learn that one of these days. I know this jazz piano player. I seen her using it, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have to check that out one day. But yeah, I think those probably the only two I haven't used really. I really started like even before Reason. I don't know if you remember like Magic's Music Maker.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like 12, 13, or I was like a teenager and
Dang.
didn't know what I was doing, but I just exploring, dropping samples in and just creating some whack tracks. But
That's awesome.
but
Yeah.
no, I just wanted to share that, man. Like I said, I use them all. Try to stay updated. I don't use Pro Tools much, but like I said, I pay for the subscription, so I do open it from time to time and
Okay.
try to stay sharp. Try to watch videos, just because it was probably like a couple of years ago. I dedicated one whole day, like 8 hours, of watching Pro Tools videos.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when I learned Ableton a few years ago, I'm like, all right, I need to sit down, set aside 8 hours, a whole work day of learning the software. Even with Studio One, I did that. Yeah, just because I like to stay sharp. I like
Yes.
to learn them all, and just I'm a tech person, so I love it.
I
But that
can
was it, man.
I could dig it, man. Well, I appreciate the share, man. Definitely, like, you took it back on a lot of levels, man. So I appreciate the share there. And yeah, I guess one day I'm gonna have to check out Digital Performer as well. I've seen it; it's old school, but people still get the job done. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to keep on the radar.
Yeah. What about you ever used Nuendo back in the day?
Yeah, for sure. I use that. Um,
Yeah.
Great DAW as well. I mean, just kind of Qbase on steroids, essentially. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great DAW.
Yes, sir. Sonar, Cakewalk, all of those back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, man. I appreciate you for coming up on stage, man. I'm gonna send you some loves before you get off the stage, man. Appreciate you. And yeah, man. Feel free to come up anytime if you want to share any more information.
All right, for sure, man. I'm about to hop back on YouTube.
All right, you got it, bro.
All right,
Peace.
peace.
All right, we got more folks in the audience on fan base as well. If any of y'all want to come up on stage and share, we talking about DAWs, and I want to know about what DAW are you using, why you use it, and how you use it in your current workflow. So if you want to come up on stage, be prepared to answer those questions. Now, just keep in mind, if you've never come up on this platform before, we are simulcasting. So we are also on YouTube right now. So if you come up on stage, you will also be a part of the YouTube stream. So just keep that in mind. But love to hear back from anybody else in fan base if you guys want to add to the conversation. I'm gonna read a couple more things in the chat until we get another hand in fan base. So let's see here. Does it mean jeans? Oh, he's talking to somebody else in there. That one B says Ableton. Okay, he's responding to somebody else. Okay, I see who he's responding to. Cold Heat Studios says I can't get past the look of Ableton. Feels like I'm working on a DAW system. I can dig that. Ableton definitely is not the most appealing looking DAW. I will admit it looks very strange and cold in a way. Um, it's very functional and it does some very interesting things. And if you don't understand that there's the two views, the session view and the arrange view, then if you look at the session view for the first time, you look like you're looking at Excel. And I think that's what people got to wrap their head around, is that there are two different views that kind of give you different workflows. So if you want the more traditional DAW workflow, then you need to switch to the arrange view. But if you're interested in trying something else and working a different, like unconventional way, that session view is powerful. That session view is very powerful. It doesn't look nice. I'm not gonna lie, it don't look nice, but it's definitely powerful. So once I learned that, it changed my whole perspective. So I understand what you mean, though, Cole. He is not a nice looking DAW by any stretch. Let's see here. Alan Iverson says, I love FL for the MIDI. Used to write MIDI on FL and dump to Studio One, but now I use FL Serato Studio 2 for trimming samples and have them ready with tempo and key. Word, that's what's up. That's what's up. Let's see here. I guess be interesting to know, like, in the chat, like, let me know what operating systems are you guys using? Are you guys are you using Mac? Are you using OS X, Mac OS? Are you using Windows? Are you using iOS? Let me know in the chat what OS you guys are using. Very curious to know that. James Graham, appreciate the super chat, fam. Thank you so much, man. He says, I love using Qbase, FL Studio, and Pro Tools. Thank you for the insights. I love the way RME, Babyface Pro, my mix downs are crisp and depth. Okay, that's dope. It works great with the Knee 5057 Sumi mixer. That is dope. That is great to hear. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Um, you say, you're using some of the top ones here. So, uh, which one are you relying on the most? I'm very curious. James, are you using Cubase more? Are you using FL more or Pro Tools more? And if you say you kind of use them all equally, that's fine too. But just curious, since you named all of those. But yeah, in the chat, let me know what are you guys using as far as OS. I definitely want to know. I'm a Mac OS user. I'm currently on, what am I on now? 13.7. So I'm on Ventura. Yeah. Also use, of course, use a lot of iOS still, but yeah, mainly like for my main production rig, I'm on Ventura. All right. Golly, boom, baby says if Mr. Rogers made a DAW, it would look like Ableton. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. See, Tadrick says Mac OS X. Okay, yes, sir. Boom, baby says Mac for life. Cody Studio says was on Mac, switched back to PC about 2 years ago. Yeah, it's interesting. I've considered going to PC, but I would have a separate system. But I think I might get back into PC, but there's other reasons, not just for music. There's other benefits and things that I'm interested in, especially on the in the world of gaming and streaming and all that kind of stuff. That would be one of the reasons I would go on PC, but it'll be a separate system. Let's see here. Joe Fire says Mac M1 loaded. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gary Smith says Mac OS 13. Yes, sir. Same here. This world needs a hero says I use Reason 13 on a Windows HP Pavilion laptop. That's what's up. That's what's up. That one B says Mac, iOS, and PC. Yes, sir. Get at Nard says Mac OS 15.3.2. Yes, sir. 88 Mo Keys, Windows 11. Mean Gene, Windows 11. This world needs a hero, Windows 11. James Graham, Windows 11. Yes, sir. Gary Smith says, I'm broke. I broke my MacBook. Wait, I'm broke. My MacBook is from 2015. Man, if it's working, bro. If you can get the job done with it, just keep going. I will say the M1s are M series Silicon Mac is a game changer. I will say that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie to you, bro. Like, if you can get you a Silicon Mac, you will be very happy, especially if you're using a lot of VSTs. Definitely a game changer. But if you're able to get your job done right now with what you got, keep pushing, man. Keep pushing and keep pushing the limits of what you can do. Because I'm gonna say what I've had thrown at me. Limitations breed creativity. That's what we say in this community a lot, this creative community. But it's true. It's absolutely true. Sometimes being limited can kind of force you to go down different directions and find solutions that you would not ordinarily find. So I think don't let the fact that you have an older system keep you from exploring how to get around things and create new workflows, because That's how you stumble onto new things where it's like, man, I didn't even know you can work like that, or I never thought to work like that. Because sometimes if you have just too powerful of a single system, you may not venture out and like find unorthodox ways to deliver your sound and your product in the end. So there's definitely some opportunity there. Let's see here. Cody Heath Studio says, I didn't realize how short of a shelf life Macs have. About 5 years. About 5 years. 5 to 7 years. If you don't upgrade within 5 years, by the time you get to 7, you are going to be a little bit irritated. I will say that. I pushed my last about 10, and 5 to 7 years max. Like when I went from my MacBook Pro, my 2009 MacBook Pro to my Mac Pro desktop, I had that for 4 years, so that was good. But this Mac Pro that I have down here, when I kept that from 2013 basically to 2023. No, don't do that. Not with Mac. That's gonna create all kind of continuity issues. Like there's stuff that I just can't use anymore, and I still have to keep this thing around. But yeah, you got about 5 years, and then it's over. You can keep the stuff. I'm not saying you can't keep it. Don't get it twisted. You can keep the old systems. My Mac Pro still works. It still turns on. I can still use it. But I'm just talking about in terms of the way they're managing like compatibility. Even at a certain point, like after 5 years, it starts to get a little iffy. They start to do funky things where it's like, okay, now this doesn't work anymore. And it's like if you want access to the new stuff, like you're gonna upgrade. And I'm a big proponent of that. Like, I don't like putting too many different operating systems on a single computer. Anyhow, I think at a certain point, like just the hardware is not configured for optimization on these new operating systems. So at a certain point, it's better for you to get a new computer with the new hardware, new CPU, new GPU, all that stuff. All that stuff is just more prepared for the OS. But I also think one of the things about Windows that has always been a key component of Windows is, hey, Windows is configurable. That's why people use Windows. That's the main value. Is like a Windows system is ultimately more configurable, more flexible. So therefore, it makes it a little bit easier to just upgrade smaller components of it and still use the same system. So I think that's a major benefit of Windows. I love it, and also being a computer engineer myself, that configurability of Windows is always compelling. Just being able to like, oh, let me swap out the GPU, like let me add a new, new processor in it. Let me, update this, update that. Like that's the beauty of having Windows. And when I switched to Mac for music production, I kind of missed that part of it. But at the same time, I did not like the instability at the time. And this is a long time ago. So I've been on Mac for, man, since 2005. So, it's basically 20 years now, right? I've been on Mac for 20 years now. I don't have as much stability issues, and I stopped having stability issues a while ago, quite some time ago. But with Pro Tools, especially, Pro Tools is actually what got me off of PC. I know my boy 88 Mo Keys was saying he didn't have instability issues. I think that depended on what DAW you're using. Most of the DAWs worked well on PC, but Pro Tools didn't. Not in 2004, 2005. Pro Tools was terrible on PC at that point. And that was a critical moment for me, because when I was working with Clinton Wayne, we were going Pro Tools, and I got tired of all the stuff all the hoops I was having to jump through at that time to get stuff from one DAW to another. So I said, no, I need to be using Pro Tools. That's what we're recording on. That's what's at the studio. I want to take the pre-production that I did with Clint and take that to the studio, do the recordings there, and then take the session back home and continue to do the mix and edits and all that stuff. So I didn't have time to be jumping between DAWs at that point. So I made a decision, and that executive decision was to get on Pro Tools. And the first take of it with the Pentium 4 that I had at the time was horrible, absolutely horrible. So I switched over, and yeah, I just haven't looked back. Have not looked back. Today though, I mean, yeah, it depends on what you're doing. I think today, first of all, nobody for the most part is required to use Pro Tools. Um, I, I'm talking about an era where like it started to become a situation where if you didn't have Pro Tools, people would look at you as you were inferior, not professional. Everybody was talking about Pro Tools. You got to have Pro Tools to be official. That's how it was back then. So it's not like that now. You don't have to have Pro Tools to be official or be taken seriously at all. You have to have good music and a good perspective to be taken seriously now, not Pro Tools. There are certain industries and specific domains where Pro Tools is still the leader, and you know institutions use Pro Tools because they've kind of locked into Pro Tools as their primary platform. So it's hard to make there's a thing called switching cost, and the switching costs are way too high to go to another platform. So therefore it's like, yeah, with no reason for us to switch when everything that we've done for the past however many decades now, Pro Tools has been around for a while, but for the past couple decades, if you've been using Pro Tools and like you got major projects and archives that are based in Pro Tools, yeah, of course, still use Pro Tools. Personally, though, I think there's a lot of great options that are Windows compatible. So yeah, it's kind of difficult to say which one is better at this point. I think if you like flexibility and you're someone that wants to work on computers, you like configuring your computer to your taste and being able to pick out the components, Windows is always the best bet. So that will kind of dictate what DAWs you can use. So like, if you're on a Windows, you Windows system specifically, you're not using Logic. I'm a Logic person, so that actually keeps me on Mac. But if I weren't, then I'd probably go for something like Qbase or Studio One or Ableton or something like that. Going back to the chat here. Boom. Let's see here. Upbeat Media says the 2018 MacBook Pro is a paperweight now. Well, yeah, I think especially if you got something that's like underpowered as far as like RAM and also hard drive space, yeah, that can quickly become a limitation, especially with the Mac, where it's like if you don't buy with the maximum amount of hard drive space and maximum RAM, it gets tricky with Mac. So yeah, I can see how 2018 is a paperweight now. Tadrick Jermaine says, I have a MacBook Pro from 2009, 2012, 2020 Intel. 2020 is my main one. 2009 is the Vault. 2012 is the travel laptop. That's what's up. My my 2009 MacBook Pro finally died completely on me. I think I just need to change the hard drive out, but it's ain't no point at this point for me. I've retired it. It's done. Rodriguez Bailey says, salute. Another great topic. I always appreciate your content. One love. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for stopping by, man. And if y'all getting value out of this stream, man, make sure y'all hit the like button, man. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with your boy and having this conversation. Like I said, we gonna continue these conversations. We doing this every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Time. If you enjoy the conversation, please do hit the like button. And if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, subscribe. Appreciate you. Cold Heat Studio says, I still have my iMac and it works great. That's dope. What year is the iMac? That one B says speak on that. Altruist working with multiple computers at the same time. Um, that's an interesting. It's an interesting topic. It's an interesting topic. I have a few different ways. I think one of the things is having a KVM. Having a KVM is super important if you're going to use multiple systems. So that's a game changer. Having like a HDMI KVM allows me to quickly switch between multiple systems using the same keyboard and mouse. So then my monitors and whatnot are hooked up to this KVM, so I can just like switch to the other computer and start working. Super important. I do use multiple audio interfaces that are hooked up when I'm using both computers. So I'll have one audio interface on the old computer, one on the new, obviously, and those will go into the monitor controller so I can kind of just do what I need to do on the old systems. I don't have them networked or anything like that where they're communicating at this point. Used to do stuff like that, but now I'm just using the Mac Pro for archival purposes. There's no real added benefit for me in terms of processing power in that configuration. Like I don't get the full distributed system power, but one of the things that people don't talk about a lot that was a big deal for Apple for some period of time was the concept of the Apple Logic node. Nodes were a way to use distribute. It's a distributed system concept where you could use multiple systems, multiple computers, and have them connected together to maximize or and improve the amount of processing power you had, because you can basically use another computer as a set of nodes that essentially Logic had access to when you were working. So nodes is discontinued now. They don't do that anymore. But that was a big selling point back in the day for me, was like the idea that I can hook up two computers together and use the CPU from both of them inside Logic. Logic could see it and leverage it. So that was an amazing feature at that time. But that's been discontinued. So let's see here. Just going back to the chat. As Jermaine says, that's why after a certain period, stop upgrading the software. I still got machine 1.9 on the first MacBook Pro. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you gotta be disciplined around that operating system upgrade. That's why, as I mentioned, I'm on Ventura. I'm not certain that I'll go past Ventura on this computer. I've only had it for, I guess it's been almost 3 years now. Dang, 3 years. Okay, I'm have to talk to wife about this 2-year upgrade plan, because I said 5 years. We coming up on 5 years on this one real quick. I need to get my money together and get my game plan, because I don't think I'm going to upgrade this system past Ventura. So I will write that until it sunsets, and then yeah, probably whatever they got at that point, I will be upgrading. Let's see here. Boom Boom Baby says I have an M1 Mac. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This world needs a hero says I tried Ableton and it took me a while to figure out, like you said, the clip session view with Reason 3. I'm able to get down ideas quick, even quicker than an MPC one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Code Heat Studio says Pro Tools was the reason I went Mac in the first place. Yeah, same. That was it. Joe Fire says I worked for Apple for 10 years, just love Mac. My Windows PC for gaming. See, that's the thing. Like, if you do more than just music production, then it's even more of a challenge, because if you do more than music production, some stuff just ain't happening on Mac. That's just what it is. I don't do a ton of like PC gaming, but I'm not gonna say I'm not a gamer. I have I have one game that I play. I play Civilization, which happens to be a PC game first, right? I love Civilization. I have a different channel where I actually play Civilization 6, and we'll start playing 7 soon. But I love Civilization. I don't primarily play that on the computer, though. I primarily play it on console. But there are other things that I want to do that would require a PC. So like I said, some of even the streaming stuff is better on PC. Like I'm streaming right now on Mac. It works. It does what it needs to do, but the functionality and the feature set, even on OBS or something like that, is just better if you're using Windows than it is on Mac. Mac is kind of like a nerfed version of what you get on PC. So it's stuff like that where I have to consider, what am I doing on it? What system do I need to use for what I want to do? And right now I'm making the Mac work, but yeah, I definitely have done the research and know, like, yeah, if I really want some of these deeper features, like PC is where it's at for me. Mean Gene says Pro Tools had a hardware compatibility list you had to follow in order for it to run. Yep, they sure did, and it was the worst thing ever. Like just having all the exact parts that you had to put together. It's like, yeah, at a certain point, and even that didn't guarantee that it was going to be performant. It still was like, oh, it's compatible, but it still may have some issues. That one beat says everything takes a while to figure out. The worst was FL because I've been on Mac for a while. Where James Graham says the Pro Tools snobs have to bow down to the innovation by the other DAW manufacturers. Yeah, I find that there's way less Pro Tools snobs today. It used to be crazy. Trust me, it used to be like, oh, you don't have Pro Tools. Oh, well, I'm not recording with you. Like artists used to do you like that all the time, especially like, oh, well, what do you have Pro Tools? Like, oh, I got Logic, and I'm not limited to 16 tracks. Does that count? Nope. Nope. You gotta have Pro Tools. And so then you had to get the Pro Tools with the upgrade, the music production toolkit to have the extra tracks or whatever. Yeah, anyhow, I find that there's not so many Pro Tools snobs today. It used to be like crazy and it was super frustrating. Um, I don't think Pro Tools has its place. I know, like in the world of film production, television production, um, people still run like TV shows, like live TV shows off of Pro Tools. I've talked to folks that do live production, and they still will pull up Pro Tools and run the show from Pro Tools. I remember I had a cat that I was working with that was part of the production for The Voice, and they were using Pro Tools. Like that was what they were using to run the live show. So it has its place. I'm not saying Pro Tools is obsolete. It's just for the common person that's making beats in a home studio environment, artist, producer, whatever. Pro Tools may not be necessary, and may be too limited for many of us. So that's why Pro Tools doesn't seem to have the relevance for a lot of like people that are home production based today, because it's just too limited, and it doesn't have the easements that a lot of modern DAWs have. So I still have Pro Tools. I bought it perpetual. I'm up to date, but I only use it for archival purposes. Like I needed to like rebuy it because I had an old version. Um, back in the day when, I was working at Native, I used to have a plug at Avid that would connect me with the software for free. Praise God. um he has left Avid and gone on to bigger and better things. So shout out to him. But yeah, I had to repurchase it because when I got my M1, the version I had wasn't compatible anymore, and I just wanted to be able to open up my sessions on my M1. So I bought it again. No problem. I hadn't bought Pro Tools in like 10 years, and then when I needed to use it again, it was like, yeah, that's what we did. As far as like Pro Tools though, like when we did George Duke's Soul Treasures, I used Pro Tools for that. When I was working with George Duke's engineer, we recorded all those sessions in Pro Tools. So all the George Duke stuff, I still have the CDs or the DVDs, I believe, from those sessions. But yeah, we used Pro Tools. But when it was time to actually like integrate it with Contact, I actually had to do the acidized loops in Sonar, because Sonar was the only Sonar was the only one that would allow me to create the acidized loops. So I had to create acidized loops in order to integrate that inside of Contact at that time. So I did all the initial like recording and editing and all that stuff in Pro Tools, and then moved that over to moved all the individual loops over to Sonar to do the acidizing of the waves, and then took that, exported it, and then we integrated that into Contact, and that's how that went. I see a hand up in fan base. Maximus, I'm gonna bring you up on stage, fam. What's good, bro?
What's up, bro? What's up?
Not much,
What's
man.
good?
How you doing?
Everything good.
Yes, sir.
I like to share you a short story from like a while back from when I switched DAWs.
Okay.
And this is coming from a friend of a friend. So my best friend, one of his good friends, God rest his soul, he passed away. But he was Teddy Riley's engineer. So I'm over to my homeboy's crib, and I let my homeboy Kamal borrow my Apple. This was back in like 2015. I let him borrow, or no, it was like 16, 17. But I let him borrow my computer to load up Logic and like just a bunch of just everything he had, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make a, basically it was a free version of Logic. He was like, man, I'm gonna hook you up. I got you. So he did that for me. I came over to the house to get my computer. So his friend just happened to be there or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I'm saying, we got to talking or whatever and everything. And, I was like, yeah, man, I'm switching over to Logic. And he was like, what were you using before? I was like, I'm using FL Studios. Now my homeboy, his idea was Logic is just so much better. Logic is just so much better. And me and him had both used FL Studios for probably about a decade at that point. So we were into FL Studios, but he was just like, trust me, Logic is better. Logic is better. So his friend goes, he's like, so why are you switching over again? I was like, well, you know what I'm saying? The sound, I want the sound to be better. He's like, bro, all DAWs, and this was almost 10 years ago now. He said, all DAWs are sonically the same. He said, you fooling yourself. And he worked for, I don't know if he was lying or whatever, but he worked for Teddy Riley. And at that moment, I was like, I trusted what he said. I still was going to switch over for other reasons because I was switching over to Mac. But I trusted what he said. But when he said it, I was like, you know what? He might be right, because me and my friend had been using. We had gotten plenty of opportunities. It didn't stop us from getting opportunities using a certain DAW.
Yeah.
So I mean, nobody's gonna really stop you from getting the opportunity if you know what you're doing. It's just that nowadays, and this is past that conversation. Nowadays, man, people gonna hate what I say, but FL Studios does everything.
Oh, it does. Absolutely.
I mean, you can't even hate on it. It does it's probably the most dangerous DAW. Might not be, in people's opinion, the best or the GOAT or whatever, but it's the most dangerous DAW that you can give somebody with nothing, and they can do something with it. Every other DAW, I think, over the years had to catch up with the trends and the norm of having to be able to do everything inside.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's just be honest. Like, we were searching for, you know what I'm saying, the same similar piano roll in every other DAW.
Yeah.
And then every other DAW kind of like, they kind of like created their own kind of flow and way of, you know what I'm saying, manipulating and messing with MIDI notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I say all that to say that like, all of this stuff is the same. I feel like it's the game plan from the actual creator, like their game plan of actually creating the actual track. You know, are you using live instruments? Are you using the right sound devices? I mean, if you're using external sound, you know, are you tracking the right way? You
Yep.
know what I mean? Are you, you know, if you have a VST inside of your DAW, do you retrack that same sound to give it, you know, a little bit more character?
Yeah.
You know, outside of the next person that's using that same particular sound. So I just think in a nutshell, all of this is really in a simpler form. It's all based on how you can manipulate the actual grid versus the grid actually being there.
No, agreed. I definitely agree. I think the sound conversation is tricky. Just going back to the first point, like recording and all of them, it's the same thing. I think where it starts to change is the sound of the actual built-in effects and stuff. Like if you're using built-in effects, especially, they all are different. The ones that are in Pro Tools are different from the ones that are in Logic, that are different from the ones in Ableton. So that's where it starts to sound different as you start to build out a mix, and then you start to like use those plugins inside of these different DAWs that are like built in. That's where it can get very different. But if you're saying like, hey, I recorded all these different DAWs and I'm using like plugins that are compatible with all the same DAWs, and I put those same plugins on each DAW, you're probably gonna get the same sound. It's like I think there's not a lot of difference there as far as like the sound, but I think the built-in stuff is what is actually very different.
Yeah, that is facts. That is super facts. Super facts. Like the reverb on FL Studio sounds different than the reverb on Logic. You
Yeah.
know, the EQ on FL Studios, in my opinion, is probably the best equalizer probably ever. I wish I could just have that just to move over to, you know, Logic. I wish they had that independently sold to where I can use it in Logic.
Mhm.
It's that good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, like you said earlier, you were saying like you move to a certain DAW and you that system kind of created a certain sound per
Yes.
se.
Yes.
You know, based on your habits and the little quirky things you do to the actual track
Yep.
and the actual music.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It kind of will come out differently depending on if you use this. Like if I use FL Studios, I know for a fact I'm going to do a lot of tricks and different different scenarios for like the hi-hats. Maybe I'll do more being loose with like taking the snare out, putting new snare parts in, because it's just easy to do. You could just do it on the fly.
Yeah.
Versus if I'm in my MPC and I'm just trying to get something kind of a groove made, and then I track everything out, and it's just waves. I kind of can't, you know, I can't move backwards to manipulate the MIDI on the fly.
Yeah,
So
totally different thing.
you know, it creates a different sound. You know, you're not gonna get that from me if I'm not using FL Studios. You're gonna get this particular track. So
Yeah.
like I definitely agree. Like, you know, once you change kind of the platform, like if I switch to Ableton right now, I'm pretty sure there'll be like some tricks I'll learn that'll add to the sound. It'll be different than, you know, anything I probably used before. So yeah, it all depends on the journey per se, I would say.
Agreed. Yeah, man. I mean that's real talk. I think once you start to understand what's behind the hood on any of this stuff, you start to realize where they have like advantages, and you will go to try to like implement those advantages to do something different that you couldn't do in something else that you were using in the past. So I think that's why, you know, on this channel we try to talk about like knowing your tools in the end, because it's like there are things that you can get out of different tools that if you know that that's a feature, you can leverage it creatively. And I think that's the point of like creativity in the end and being an artist. It's like knowing your instrument and being able to manipulate your instrument based upon like what that instrument specifically does and how it specifically sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was kind of having a similar conversation with somebody yesterday about like, you know, vintage gear, these guys really, really falling in love with vintage gear,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing that back in the day when people were sound designing, they were trying to create something new.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like to really think about it, like people were actually just, they go out to buy this particular piece of gear because it was used on this particular song to make this particular hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, in that situation, that particular person was trying to create something new.
Yeah.
So not saying that you're copying off of them, but I think the goal would be to, if you're gonna get something old or something new, is to search and to create a new type of sound instead of saying that, oh, I want to sound just like that person. Because let's just be honest, FL Studios didn't get really big until a hit was made on it, until like everybody kind of dropped their guard, until like Knife Wonder and then Pharrell started using it a little bit. He started being vocal about it, and then a couple other people started to be like vocal about, well, I did this track on FL Studios. I did this whole song. We did this whole song on FL Studios.
Yeah.
You know, so
once that second and third generation of trap producers started to pop off, I think that's when people really had to drop their guard. I think Knife was kind of like always an anomaly. It's like, yes, he's using it, but like the boom bap thing that he was doing wasn't like necessarily enough. It was just like, yeah, he's crazy at that. But I think once that second and third generation of trap guys started, you know, the Lex Lugers of the world and all that kind of stuff, like that's when it was like, oh, okay, it's really serious. These are hit
yeah,
records now.
you can't deny it then because you're not in the mix. Like you're kind of wondering. I think a lot of people were wondering how were they getting that particular sound on the fly?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could do that same sound in the MPC,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just like quick for them.
Yeah.
And then you watching other people, you know, in reality live cook up a track. You watch, you know, TM 808
Mm-hmm.
cook up a track, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, I don't want this MPC because I want to make trap music. I want to do what he doing. So it kind of just, you know, dropped the older guys, it dropped their guard because it's like, yo, like, I'm not saying the only way to get this sound is to use this, but if you're going for this sound, this particular sound for this artist, you might want to look into FL Studios.
It's about, I think for a lot of people, it's the path of least resistance to pick what you already know works based on someone else's experiences. So I think even if you're going for something like vintage, like, yes, you can probably produce a vintage tone from your DAW if you understand what effects and things and combinations to use, but sometimes it's just easier to say, hey, I'm going for a vintage tone. They used it on this album. So I think that's the same logic that they're using. Like if they go for vintage, they're gonna pick out that vintage thing that they read in, you know, SOS or Mix magazines, you know, their favorite engineer used. And then the younger generation, yeah, they see, you know, Metro and Lex and everybody else on FL. It's like, yeah, that's what they use. Like they're not using MPCs, even though the first generation of trap, yeah, of course they use MPCs, but the guys that they're looking up to didn't. So it makes it easier to just say, no, all the guys that I know that are making hits are using that. I'm using that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maximus, man, I appreciate you, man. Anything else you want to add to the conversation here?
Man, that is all, man. That is all. I'll hit you up and let you know the good news. I just got in that crib. So
okay.
I'll hit you up. I ain't gonna say it on here, you know what I'm saying? So,
all good, man.
yeah,
Appreciate
I'll
you,
send
man.
you some words.
Yes, sir, man.
Yes, sir.
And I just sent you some loves, man. So appreciate you for coming up on stage, man. Thank you so much.
Oh man, I appreciate it, bro.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace.
Wow.
All right. Yes, sir, man. I love the community coming in here and sharing their experiences and whatnot, man. Super dope to hear everybody's perspective and whatnot and just get different ideas. Tyrone Sellers, I see you with the super chat, fan. Sorry I didn't acknowledge you immediately, but I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. He said, amen to this guy, FL, baby. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, fam. Let me see what else is in the chat real quick. Aaron Wilfork, what's going on, fam? Appreciate you for joining us. James Graham says FL Studio evolved into a beast of a DAW. It's amazing with sequencing. You can draw in the piano roll and edit notes and create crazy melodies. It's fun to use. Absolutely. Jay Kills on the Beat says FL and Ableton Raw no plugins is slightly louder than the box than Logic. I think a lot of people have kind of discovered that the secret on the FL is the fruity limiter that is kind of tucked on slot number 10. And if you don't know, if you open up FL and you start using it and you don't realize that on that master track, like all the way tucked in slot number 10 on the master, there is a limiter on it. And that is the secret. And if you know it, then you turn it off, and then all of a sudden you're getting what's really going on. When I used FL and I started to hear, like once my ear got tuned to it, like I cannot stand the sound of the limiter when I'm working. Not that limiter, at least. It's squashing my stuff, and I can tell. I'm like, why is my kick not going all the way like I know it's supposed to go, especially that one that I've been using for the past 20 years. Like that one, I know what that's supposed to sound like. It's not sounding right. And then when you understand, oh, that limiter is on, then the loudness thing kind of goes out the window. So I think that's one of the things that people have to recognize about FL. It's like there's a lot of easements in there, and they've tried to protect the user from overs and all that stuff. But if you really know what you're doing and you really know how you want your stuff to sound, some of that stuff you don't need. So that's like it's a training wheel in a way, right? The fruity limiter or whatever can be a training wheel for some people just to keep them in check. But like if you know sounds and sonics and then you start using that, it's like, oh, that's not it for me. So that kind of stuff that people you gotta know your gear in the end. You gotta know your tools. That one B says people claim FL does something to 808s. A good clipper can give you the same sounds as any DAW. Yeah, I think you can achieve like some great sounds in any DAW if you understand how to use like clippers and saturation and overdrive and that sort of stuff. Like, I don't think you're dependent on just FL for that. But there are some things in FL, like especially in Edison, that it does that nothing else that I've seen does. Like as for a sound designer, as myself, seeing what it can do with like waveforms and like resynthesizing waveforms and automatically creating loop points and stuff, like that is a different level. Like if they had that in Machine or MPC, then I would do more instrument sound design on MPC, especially. Machine is like decent, but what FL does, like with waveforms, like the ability to resynthesize it and create loop points like automatically, oh boy. For an instrument sound designer like myself, that's a game changer. And I haven't seen anything else like that. It's stuff like that where it's like, wow, yeah, that's a different level right there. Aaron Wolfork says young dudes ain't mess with FL until Lex, where Timbaland used Logic to make a lot of hits. Where Timbaland has some very questionable stuff to say about Logic, but I'm gonna move on from that because people think I'm hating if I question Timbaland. But trust me, I've heard Timbaland say some interesting stuff that you'd be very surprised, and I'm not gonna say any more than that. After using all the main this is only the funk. After using all the main DAWs, Ableton, FL, Logic, I feel Ableton is more inspiring to use, and it helps you to stand out more. That's dope. I also think that Ableton just has better like production oriented dedicated controllers for it. It's just that DAW has great dedicated controllers that no other DAW can say that it has, really. Like the push and all that kind of stuff. Like even before the push, the APCs and all that stuff. That stuff is incredible. I think that stuff makes Ableton very compelling. Like when I was using it with primarily Core 2 and like MIDI controllers and whatnot. But once they got to like the APCs and the push, like the push really changed the game. Like as far as the DAW is concerned, having a tactile DAW, like there were tactile DAWs, like Pro Tools had the 001 and the 002 and all that kind of stuff, right? Like especially the 002 and 003. But that was for mixing and recording. Once we got to the push, oh, that changed the game. Like that really upped the ante on what's expected for a tactile approach to using a DAW. Push ain't perfect, but I think push definitely moved things in a different direction that we didn't see with a lot of DAWs. Let's see. DJ Luke Beats, what's going on with you? He says Lex put FL on notice for trap producers. I agree. I think Lex is the unsung hero for FL. Image Line owes him a lot as far as like really making that like the de facto thing to use for trap and modern hip hop. Without him and others like Metro and whatnot, yeah, you just wouldn't. It would be a different thing. You would kind of be still like on the outskirts of like acceptability without guys like that. So, shout out to Lex. Worked with Lex in the past, actually. William Oates says waveform and FL from creating Studio One for mixing. I use hardware sequencers, MPC, etc. as a controller mostly. That's what's up. That's what's up. James Grant says, how do people feel about Universal Audio's Luna DAW? I haven't used it, but I was always kind of skeptical about getting into Luna. And I'm gonna just be honest with you. The reason I was skeptical was because of me understanding who is behind the whole like UAD and Luna stuff, especially. A lot of that framework and technology, like the UAD workflows and Luna and all that stuff, you got people that came from DigiDesign, which was who made Pro Tools originally. So they started to bring some of that logic and mentality over to Universal Audio, and they started to develop the things that we know now. And me not enjoying my time with DigiDesign and UAD, or not DigiDesign and Pro Tools back in the day, made me very skeptical because I said, I know what the DigiDesign guys did back in the day. If they bring that over here, it's a wrap. I wanted no part of that. So I never got into Luna. People like it. I hear people saying, good things about it, but I always felt like it was going to be a pathway to entrap me because I remember what DigiDesign did. So you can look it up. There was people. The people that were at DigiDesign, there were a lot of them that went over to Universal Audio and started to develop that stuff. So that's why I was like, no, thank you. Let's see here. Tadrick Jermaine says Logic Pro is the best as far as cost features. I love Reason more, but if I can only use one DAW ever and a limited budget, Logic wins. 200 for the one-time instruments are dope. I 100% agree. J Kill says it's not the DAW that helps you stand out, it's what you do with the DAW that helps you stand out. Absolutely. Let's see here. DJ Luke B says I like to use FL Studio as a plugin inside the Studio One. That's dope. J Kill says even with the limiter off, FL and Ableton are still louder than Logic. I don't know that I agree with you on that part. I have done some tests. I don't agree with that. Ming Jean says Logic's strong point is gain staging. Once you understand how that works, your mixes come out a lot better. Absolutely. I think that's a key. Gain staging. Gain staging is so key. James Grant says the stem separation in FL Studio is amazing. I cannot believe the separation being so clean. Yeah, stem separation is great in there. Aaron Wilfork says I got heavily in Logic when I bought Machine V1, got the Logic template from F Major. That's what's up, man. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all that got that old Logic template from F Major back in the day. Appreciate y'all. That was before a lot of stuff was like well integrated. So that was trying to find solutions to shortcomings of the platforms, and it was a great way to work at that time. I think today you probably don't need to work like that, especially provided that all the groove boxes have a little bit more mature software component that can run all the VSTs you want and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, back then, I was trying to find a better way to work, and that was an interesting way. And I definitely did a lot of stuff with that because I had been working like that with Logic for quite some time. So I just brought it over to the Machine and the MPC Renaissance at that time. So yeah. Let's see here. 88 Moki says Luna's okay. James Graham says Luna's free, but to use it at a higher level, the suggestion is to purchase plugins. That sucks. Yeah, I understand. I understand how they work, and that's why I saw the trap. I saw the catch a mile away, and I said, no, you're not gonna catch me up with that because it's a loss leader and it's a lead generation tool for them, which is cool. It's good business logic. Trust me, being a product manager in music tech, trust me, I understand. You have to understand some type of psychology and use it, but I don't. I didn't see any reason for me to get into that personally. But yeah, fam. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with your boy for the past couple hours. Those of y'all that have been on this live stream, man, I think we're gonna call it. It's been a great conversation. I got a lot of information out of it as well, as far as like learning more about what you guys are on. Hopefully I provided some value to you and some insights that you didn't have before. And if you got value out of this conversation, please do hit the like button. If you have people that are on the fence about which DAW to get into, maybe share this video with them. Let them know, like, hey, there's some great insights from not just the host, but also others that were involved in this conversation. It's been a great conversation. Appreciate everybody that came on stage and shared their insights and thoughts as well. This was a dope one. So yeah, make sure y'all hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. And yeah, man, we gonna wrap it up today, man. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations with y'all. We're gonna come back next week, same time, 4 p.m. Central Time, to have some more discussions, and we're gonna keep doing this thing that we're doing and keep building this community, man. So I appreciate all y'all that are a part of this community and all y'all that share your thoughts and ideas and help each other, because I think that's important. Like, helping each other to grow and become better at what we're doing and what our goals are within this music production community, man. So much love to y'all. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We do music production here, man. This is a music production channel, and I'm about building up the community, providing value, providing insights, providing wisdom, providing tutorials and other things to help you to like expand your thoughts around music production. That's what this channel is about. So I appreciate y'all. And if y'all want to keep up to date with what's going on, subscribe. And if you're ready to go to the next level, we have our True Sound Creators membership on this channel, where we have over 50 hours of exclusive music production, information, content, all kinds of interesting interviews and walkthroughs and shootouts and things that are not on the main page here. So if you're interested in becoming a True Sound Creator, become a member. We'll put a link to the join page for True Sound Creators if you're interested in getting access to the exclusive content. And also we have interviews with people like EA Ski, Snipe Young, Divided Souls. We're doing members only discounts on plugins, and also my ebook, The Sound Mind. The Sound Mind is an ebook that I have written to help music producers level up in the areas of music production and sound design. So if you're looking to level up and explore new opportunities within the scope of sound design and music production, this is a great resource. People of all skill levels have found value out of this. I don't care if you are just getting started or if you've been doing it for a long time. There's a lot of valuable insights, over 20 years of insights professionally as a music tech professional. I've compiled this information in here, 120 pages of just resources and information and insights and things that will help you to level up as a music producer. This is a great resource, and true sound creators get this at a special price of $19.99. So if you're not a true sound creator, you can still purchase it, but I recommend you become a true sound creator and you can get it for $19.99. That being said, y'all, we're going to get out of here. So appreciate y'all for joining. I want to tell y'all until next time, peace and God bless.